Okay, Adam did not do this intentionally, but because we brought up Dawn to do the test and then you popped up, you are currently in hell, but
Oh,
it's
you can move him up, can't you?
I don't think actually I might be able to.
Yeah, he's fine. He
Okay, I
can go up
got you,
there.
bro. Oh, maybe not.
No,
Oh, crap. Oh,
it's fine.
okay, sorry.
Just ask him.
Okay.
I can. Are you at least 18, Adam?
I am at least 18.
Perfect.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
what are your beliefs?
So I am a just creedal Christian, non-denominational Protestant, probably closer to high church than lower church,
What do you
which
mean by that?
is
Just
so.
I've never heard the phrase high church, which is probably
Oh
a me issue, but
no, there's not an issue. A high church is a church that has a lot of liturgy, a structured order of prayer and service. Typically, you might call it more ritual in
Sure.
its action. So, for example, the Catholic Church, Orthodox churches, Anglicans, high Orthodox Presbyterians, kind of the historical Baptists, not necessarily modern, especially in the United States Baptists. That if you ever see somebody who's playing on the organ and the whole congregation's going crazy and it looks completely out of order, that would be considered low church. There's more authority imputed to the pastor, and
would you say more solemnity?
Yes, I think more solemnity is part of it. The emphasis on self-control tends to be higher, in my view.
Would you relate to that kind of?
Yeah, that would have been more. So I was non-denominational fundamentalist Protestant, and that was definitely the way we were, right? I mean, we had, worship, like, the whole worship band thing.
No,
Which
he said not that.
Well, you were saying.
He said if you see a church where they're like dancing and playing.
I mentioned both just to show the contrast.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you had worship band, but you were still pretty like.
Right.
I don't know what one of your services
we didn't have like any like rituals. Like it wasn't like a Catholic.
So it would be
church.
more like Catholic.
Okay. Did you practice? I was going to ask, and I'm sorry, I don't know either of your names.
No. And are you Adam? Is that good to call you?
I am Adam. Yes.
Okay. I'm Adele.
And I'm Josh.
Hello, Adele. Hello, Josh.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Welcome in.
Pleasure to meet you.
So this is a big weekend for you. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about like why you believe or what you think is a good reason to believe, or where would you like to see this conversation go?
Well, I think one of the easiest reasons. So let's talk about why I believe.
Sure.
I think that if you, and this is one example, but it's been most on top of my mind recently.
Okay.
If you gathered a group of people into a room with you who had known you your entire life, or in a community that you grew up in, whether that was a school community or church community, some type of after-school organization, and you were to ask them if they had ever seen you damage a relationship between yourself and other people, become angry with someone out of turn, do somebody wrong, everybody would tip. If the more you've lived with them, the more people would say yes.
Sure.
And I think it's an interesting thing. Before we get into the kind of the prophecy and all of the spiritual stuff, that's actually something that Jesus Christ did. He was in a community in Bethlehem, or excuse me, in Nazareth, where he grew up. And this was in the scene, I think it's in the Gospel of Matthew, where he's reading from the great Isaiah scroll. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Those are some keywords for it. But and he was asked, or he asked the people in this crowd, has anyone seen me commit a sin? And nobody said anything about that. Nobody said, yes, I've seen you do this or that. Nobody could accuse him of anything on a personal level. So I thought I think that's an interesting thing. I feel like the average person probably sins 4 or many more times a day.
Well, and it kind of
I
depends
think,
on how far you split the hairs on what constitutes a sin. It could
well,
be quite a bit more than that.
sure. Yeah, no, it could definitely be more than that. But I think that nobody stepping up to accuse him
You don't
is.
think that was just fear or intimidation?
No, I don't. The onus or the power in a place like that where somebody submits themselves to the judgment of a crowd, if anybody has any case to raise against them, it would become a debate. And we see Christ debate a lot of times. He debates the Pharisees all the time. But nobody who he lived with, nobody who he grew up with, spoke up and said, yes, I saw you do such and such. I think that in its own, just as an account, that's a very compelling story that I don't think anybody else on earth has, that somebody has never committed a sin.
So that is super interesting. I will agree. I mean there's a couple of like things we have to take as truth, right? We have to take that account that was written down as true, right? We have to believe that nobody wrote that as a story. Obviously, like even Josephus embellished on Hercules, and a lot of historians of that time would like make certain claims from like a theological perspective. But one of the things that like kind of stuck out for me though is like another like account of like when Jesus was like with his own people, because a lot of times when he started his mission when he was 30, and he was out amongst like other people, not necessarily within his own like community. But it
Mm-hmm.
does say like, and this part because this is like a famous one liner. It's actually pop up here on the screen. So this is Mark 6. This is one. There's also one in Matthew. It says basically the same thing. Where in Mark 6 it says, Jesus left that place, came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that's been given to him? What deeds of power are being done by his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary?" Which, by the way, that's actually a whole nother story because they didn't usually say son of
A woman.
the woman, right? It was always of the
Yeah,
man. A son of Mary,
son
yeah.
of Joseph. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A brother of James. And in fact, I think Matthew corrects that. I think Matthew adds the carpenter and Mary. It's, Matthew was written later. And the brother
interesting.
of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us? Which, by the way, the Catholic Church hates that.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, and they took offense at him. And then Jesus said to them, prophets are not without honor, except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house. Now, it doesn't say that he sinned. Okay, so that you've got a good point there. This part always struck me as interesting, though, because it reminds me of that Santa Claus movie. It said, Elf. It says, and he could do no deed of power there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their belief. So it's like he because of their unbelief, he was almost like his power was like stifled. But it was always interesting to me because that thought of like you're never accepted in your own hometown because people are like, well, that's just the carpenter's kid. You know what I mean? Now it doesn't necessarily
Sure.
mean that he sinned, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Sure. I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Could you pull it back up on the
Oh,
screen?
yeah, sure.
absolutely, yeah, yep. And I'll scroll to the top or wherever what section you'd like.
No, this is fine.
Cool.
Yeah, prophets are not without honor except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house.
They're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
without
if you
honor.
So that kind of goes against what you
Yes.
said about people who know you.
Yes.
Not that I
so
disagree
that
with your previous point. I'm just kind of
yeah.
yeah.
No, it's definitely true. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that quote, behind every great man is his wife rolling her eyes, right?
I'm right
Like,
here.
yeah. Oh, there you are. Yeah. So yeah, no, I've definitely seen yeah, people I think that's more of a human condition thing, right? Prophets are not without honor except in their own hometown and among their own kin and in their house. Right? When they
Right.
didn't there and that word honor, if that's the correct word. So in Hebrew, the word honor, like that we would use in the Ten Commandments, is the word kabod. And kabod means to take seriously. So honor your father and mother. Will take your mother and father seriously. Make the words and there's also this idea of like the things that they have, they are like heavy, right? So yeah, if Christ could do no deed of power there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them, and he was amazed at their unbelief.
And that's
Yeah.
still a good miracle. I mean, you can lay your
I
hands
mean,
on people and
yeah.
cure them. That's
Well,
still
yeah,
good.
you would have loved that about 24 hours
Yeah,
ago.
I would have taken that. I could have used some hands healing me when I was
Sure.
sick this week. Yeah.
Sure. I just is the question, I don't mind this in here at all. This is there something that you would like to ask me about this verse or these verses?
This one might this one's more of just like about like how his own hometown kind of accepted
Perceived him.
right? But there's
Oh,
also
sure.
like there's other like passages in the Gospels where Jesus flat out like is dishonest. It's a little bit difficult to explain away. Let me actually pop up the one that comes to mind that I struggled with.
And can I ask,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
use the New Revised Standard Version?
I'll choose whatever one you want.
Is all right. Let's see. Would you go? Why don't we try NIV? Why
Yeah,
not?
absolutely. That's the one that I was most read when I was Christian, actually. So.
Oh, you just passed it.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
and
It reads better, in my opinion.
I think so too.
I get
pretty. Oh no, after you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like the NRSV, like they tried like super hard to make it very like word accurate. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't quite deliver the same because the NIV like tried to blend like accuracy with like not rhythm's not the right word, but made it readable. You know what I'm saying? Like a little more readable. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's somewhere between a direct word for word translation of the Greek and the Hebrew, like word for word, line for line. Like, I don't know if you've ever looked up an interlinear
Oh yeah,
Bible.
yeah.
So when you read them here, and I'll just read you, maybe I could. Anyway, no, it's because of the way the Greek language is. Going word for word in those is like
pretty tough.
You're doing backflips. You're doing mental backflips.
It's almost like you might as well at that point just be reading King James Version language.
We just got a comment that the KJV is the most accurate.
Oh dang it! It's
Oh,
it's okay.
All right.
Do some
Okay, so we have some KGV stands in the audience.
We
That-
do.
Hello,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Baptists. We love you.
I'm
God bless
happy
you.
to talk KJV
I
translations
don't
next.
happen to think it's the best
It's okay.
personally, but
So okay, so this one was interesting to me, and again, I'm bringing some of these up because these are things that I struggled with, right? So I was a Christian for a very long time. I ran
Sure.
into sections that I struggled with. I, of course, tried to find the apologetics for them, and a lot of times I could apologize them away, and
Mhm.
mostly for my own self, but then I could also obviously use it with apologetics with other people. But anyways, it says so. Let's see here. Okay, so
oh yeah, you do have it up.
okay, after this, Jesus went about in Galilee. So I'm starting at the very top of the chapter. It's a little bit
Sure.
farther down. He did not wish to go about in Judea because the Jews were looking for an opportunity to kill him. Now the Jewish festival of booths was near, so his brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea so that your disciples also may see the works you are doing. For no one who wants to be widely known acts in secret. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." Says, "For not even his brothers believed in him." Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always here. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify against that its works are evil. Go to the festival yourselves. I am not going to this festival, for my time is not yet fully come." After saying this, he remained in Galilee. But after his brothers had gone to the festival, then he also went, not publicly, but as it were in secret. The Jews were looking for him at the festival and saying, "Where is he?" And then you can go on to read it, but it's just interesting to me that it's like he like said he's not going, but then he went even while they were still there, and it's just like if you know what I mean, like that to me is just like a little. It's not like murdering somebody, but it's a little dishonest, unless you can explain that I'm not understanding that correctly.
Sure. Well, I think to begin with, the injunction against lying that so many of us talk about, beginning in the Old Testament, is "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." And bearing witness is in a court of judgment or in a seat of judgment. So it's an injunction against perjury. Go to the festival yourselves. I am not going to this festival, for my time has not yet fully come. Okay. Can you
Oh yeah, get that little thing.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And where is he? All right. The Jews were looking for him at the festival too and saying, "Where is he?"
Yep. But then it says
He
also
went not
went.
publicly, but as it were in secret. Okay. So I guess the question is Christ being dishonest here?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. And I wish I had my... Well, he did not do what he publicly told his brothers he was going to do. That's right there in the text. So I guess my question is why, and how is this account not shocking to
It shocked me
these people?
when I first read it. I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?"
Why would it
Yeah,
not be?
no, it's definitely interesting.
It's worth thinking about anyway. Worth bringing up, I think.
Yeah, definitely. No, this is actually very cool.
I agree, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate your temperament.
The
Oh.
very
We've seen a lot of people get real fired up
The-
about having
the
differing opinions, and I just think that it's really fun to be able to pick through things together and just kind of.
Yeah.
There's one other
Hold on, he had
too.
a
Oh
thought
yeah,
real
yeah.
quick.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to catch
Sometimes
you.
I have to keep him. He's like a
Keep me
puppy
reined
dog.
in. I just get excited.
No. So this actually reminds me of the prophet Nathan under, I think it was Saul. And And there are actually a number of times in the Bible that this happens. So, for example, God says to Moses, it's time for you to liberate the people. We're pulling out of Egypt, everybody. And when Moses goes before Pharaoh, he instructs, he says, Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, the God of my people, let your servants go 3 days away into the desert, that they may hold a festival to me. So that's one example. What was God's will? Well, God's ultimate will was that they be free in the land of Canaan, right? Not in the land of Goshen where they were. So that's one thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is when, the prophet Nathan, I think under Saul, goes to he's basically held captive in Saul's court. And if we want to look these up, my keywords, these are the stories are there. The keywords, we might need to look them up. Just for anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I remember that story. I'm tracking with you.
Yeah. So Nathan is told to go out, and Saul says, "Well, where are you going?" And Nathan says, "I'm going somewhere."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he gives him, he basically, he deceives him. Right? He does not tell him 100% the truth, because there's a bigger fish to fry. Nathan's off doing the work of God somewhere. Moses is off doing the work of God somewhere. And Christ is, again, doing the work of God.
Right.
So if he's telling his own brothers, what's going, he tells his own brothers, "Hey, I'm not going to this thing. My time has not come yet." And there were also, and when the writers use the term Jews there, they always mean the rabbinical authorities, whether that's a political authority or a religious authority, somebody. When they say the Jews, this is like a voting block. Right?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're looking for him too, because they're trying to suss him out.
Yep.
So if Christ says, "My time hasn't come yet," he decides to go off one, and later, maybe later he comes to the realization, "Oh, this is actually the will of God that I should go." Or
Do
he
you
knew
believe that he knows the will of God? So this is just a not side question, but I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on this. Like, so do you believe that, because we obviously have some situations in the Old Testament, or in the New Testament, sorry, where Jesus, like, prays to God in the Garden of Gethsemane, like, "Take this from me, if you will." Like, he's obviously distraught with that. He also is like, tells his disciples that, like, I don't know the hour, only God knows the hour. I mean, what are your thoughts on, like, is Jesus God? How omniscient is or was Jesus? Like, I'm just kind of curious, as like a baseline, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, as a Trinitarian, Jesus Christ is the Messiah. He is the Son of God, right? God the Son. He is in union with the Father. I and my Father are one. That word "one" there being the word echad, which is in the Shema, which is like the principal. That's the biggest Old Testament statement of faith. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one." The Lord, the Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Yeah, Yahweh our God, Yahweh is one. and that echad also means unity and united. So Christ is no less a man for being the Son of God. If he were not, and there are places, for example, where some of the writers of the New Testament, I think it would have been the writings of Saint Paul. He says, "For he was tempted in all ways like us." If he were not a man, then the redemption of mankind could not have been possible. It's an inside job.
So so do you think that according to John, right? So you've got two
Sure.
different ways of looking at this where you've got like Mark, where it would appear just from if you just forget the other gospels and read strictly Mark, for example, it would appear that Jesus becomes God when he gets into the river with John the Baptizer and is baptized, and Jesus, it's like it's like an adoptive type of, that's when he becomes, divine. But then you of course have John, written much later, that of course at that point things have progressed, and it's like, Jesus was the logos, right? Like he was there since the beginning. So do you think that,
Sure.
like, I'm just more of my curiosity, do you feel like Jesus was like always God and then came to earth, like confined himself to like manness, and like didn't like know, all of a sudden then he was not omniscient, and then when he went back into heaven he became omniscient again? Or do you think, like, how does that work, that he didn't know things, he wasn't omnipresent, he wasn't omniscient while he was on earth?
Yeah, so God the Son is absolutely God.
Always.
Jesus Christ's sonship, as I understand it, the messianic mission was not about signs and wonders. It was not about the power of God. It was about the character of God. Who is God? And the miracles, all of the miracles, are essentially there to show who God is and what he is like, and how he relates to those people who are made in his image. And that's people, right? Everybody. So I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the question one more time.
Oh yeah, like, so was Jesus like God before all eternity, and then came down to earth and like became finite as a man, was then not omniscient and not omnipresent, because he had to physically be places, and he didn't like know the hour, only the Father knows the hour at which the Son of
Right.
Man is coming, etc. And then
Yeah.
when he went back into heaven, he's back to like omniscient, omnipresent status again.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly valid take. If you look in the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, like the Genesis account of basically how man is constructed, he is flesh, and that's made of earth, right? Adam made of earth. There's the flesh. There's also life, chaya, which is like breath, and God made him a living being. And then there's another part called the neshama, which is the part of the human being that it's basically the soul, right? And this is the part that engages in spiritual matters. And so I believe that Christ, from the time he was conceived, had perfect integrity and perfect unity with the will of God in the spiritual matters. I think that I think that his mind was very much that of a man. His body was very much that of a man. But all of which he submitted to the will of God the Father. And I think that's the thing. That's the picture that we are trying to model as Christians, and I think that's the picture that that God sent Jesus into the world to show us.
That's a pretty good I mean, I'd say that's a pretty good harmony between, like, Pauline, philosophy, and John, and that tracks pretty well. So basically,
Yeah.
like, if it's okay, so if you are doing God's will, like in the case of Nathan, in the case of Jesus, it's okay to be deceptive just as long as it accomplishes God's will, if there's like a bigger plan.
So yeah, I don't see any there are a number of sorry, I just
You're
opened
good.
my mouth and all of the words came out.
It's me
Here,
all the
let
time.
me
Yeah, I was gonna
let
say,
me
been
try
there, done
this.
that.
Yeah, let me see if I can get these cows
Get him
back
in the
into
form of a
line.
sentence.
Yes, that'd be great. All right, one at a time through the gate. So, yeah, if you look at there are a number of places where Christ tells people basically to be wise, right? And wisdom is a good thing. Be ye wise as serpents and gentle or innocent as doves, right? Do not let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. And other things like when you pray, go into your some would say go into your room, go into your prayer closet, right? If anybody has heard the word go ye into your prayer closet, that
I sure
right?
have.
So and there are a number of things that you are supposed to do in secret, and that's essentially so that God gets the glory. But the other hand is, I think it's this idea of the warring kingdoms, right? There's the kingdom of this earth that is run by Satan, and there's the kingdom of heaven, which is run by Jesus Christ, right? King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And these kingdoms are at war. So you'll get to places, for example, when Christ is fasting, we're coming to the end of Lent. It's practically here. Christ is in the desert fasting for 40 days, and Satan is coming, and he's fishing for information. Are you really the guy who is supposed to uproot my kingdom? If you're really the Son of God, make these stones bread. If you're really the Son of God, throw yourself down. If you're really the Son, and the telling one too is, I have all of the riches and all of the power of the kingdoms of the earth, and they are mine to give, and I will give them to you if you will worship me. And Christ says, no. We are told only to worship God. So there's kind of it's kind of like information. There's like some level of not smoke screen, but some level of discernment in who you tell what to. Is essential.
And what were you going to say?
Well, I'm trying to decide if I want to interject this here. It seems kind of like the time, but I don't want to lose the track of why deception. I mean, like, deception might be important in my marriage. If I say to I look good in this outfit, we probably know what the answer should be. Um, but if God made people and he made a humanity, why did he allow Satan to have reign over his world that he made?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Because he could do whatever he wanted with Satan, right? He didn't have to put him in charge of us down here.
Yeah, so here. Um, where to begin on that?
She asked the big ones.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah,
Well, I
just
don't have
drop the hardest
A little
questions
easy
on
one,
me,
yeah. There you go.
right?
well, like
Hang
it's
on.
something that has bothered me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. So Satan Satan is a usurper. God is the rightful king. And what ends up happening, and we know this all, we all know this, sorry. Sometimes English isn't even my second language.
It's all good.
But we know that usurpers and liars and cheaters can take power in a short term, right? And that's kind of the nature of usurping. You make a short-term move, you do something that you ought not to do, something that right-thinking people would not do, and you gain some ground very quickly. But the end of that is loss, and then after that loss is like the recompensing, because God is just, in places like
I guess
science for every.
sorry, and
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure that I'm completely
yeah.
satisfied with that, because I think the root of the question is why did God do it in the first place, not what does it look like when Satan usurps?
I don't think that God did that. I
Well,
don't think that
he kicked
God,
Satan out of heaven,
he kicked Satan out of heaven, yes.
but now he gets to
But
rule over God's entire creation.
gets to is a strong.
How else would you
um
put it?
hmm. I think that so it sounds like the question. Well, no, I'm not going to change your question. I think that
I mean, you feel free to rephrase it and we can see if we
yeah,
agree or not.
yeah, I think. Hang on a second. Let me pause.
No, no worries at all.
This is heavy.
Please don't feel rushed.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Um, so I think I'm sorry. Can you give me the question one more time?
So I think the root of my question is if Satan used to be beloved and in heaven, and then,
Sure.
oops, not anymore, and we need him out of here. Well, at what point does God, who can do anything he wants, decide that now Satan is ruling over God's own creation, and now we have to battle this man or demon, devil, whatever you want to call Satan,
Sure.
because God put him in charge of this realm now, if you see it as like levels like our background is, or if you see it as,
Yeah. So
however you
he is not. Satan is still under God's authority. Satan is not. Do you guys have kids?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a child who might on occasion get upset and storm off, become enraged and take something that he ought not to?
So we actually are kind of lucky.
I mean, I'll
We'll grant
grant the
that.
yes.
But yes, we could
Oh.
see that happening. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
We
it's
could see that happening.
so Satan is still under God's power. And God can step in at any time
So why doesn't he?
well, that's a big question. I think one of the reasons is because of us. I think that the reason that God permits suffering and sin and evil is because the moment that he decides, no, I'm at the end of my patience, no, the moment he decides to wipe out evil, he's
Like
wiping
with
out
Noah?
all of it. Yes. And so, and that he doesn't want to lose us. He doesn't want to lose our hearts and our souls. I think that's the reason he does it, because he's still calling people out of this evil. And he wants to get us out of the way so that when the hammer does fall, it doesn't fall on us.
But
I
at the
think
end
it's
of the day, he's still the one that put that evil here instead of just sending him to another planet or only in the dominion of hell.
Interestingly, to give you like a second on that one, it is interesting that because like the tree of knowledge of good and evil was in the garden, and before, so technically the serpent didn't lie to the Adam and Eve when the serpent said, when you eat of it, you will know the difference between good and evil, and you will become like God, knowing good and evil. But that would imply that before they ate from the tree of knowledge, they didn't know good and evil. So it'd be like they're like before the age of accountability mentally, right? It's like a bunch of kids in a daycare. So it's
yeah.
like the fact that God let loose a deceptive serpent that could like trick like a bunch of daycare level mentality kids, right? That don't know the difference
Sure.
between right or wrong into like eating it. Like if God's omniscient, he had to know that they were going to do it. So it's like, and then the problem is the whole reason that there's a hell according to the Christian church is because of the original sin. And if the original sin was something that humans did before they even knew what sin was, before they knew the right and wrong, it seems like a massive setup.
So interesting. I follow, I think it's more of the orthodox understanding of hell, as hell is a place completely outside of God.
Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
What shall
Don't
I
say
say?
C.S. Lewis. Don't say C.S. Lewis.
Oh no, I
C.S. Lewis
won't.
trick.
Guys, please, you act like I read books. No.
I truly believe that you do read books in a very complimentary way. I believe that about you.
Thank. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, I think that, so if you look at the, like the Genesis account, God makes the heavens and the earth, right? The earth is formless and void. The word that they use there is tohu wabohu, which is a super chaotic nightmare mess.
Mhm.
And the goal for Adam is to expand Eden. That's his work, to keep the garden, to tend it, and to expand it, right? And well, that's actually later. That's chapter 3, I think, or longer. But the job is always
We can look
ex.
if you want.
But yeah, no, we're
But yeah,
tracking.
we're
Okay,
good.
we're
Yeah,
tracking.
You're good.
yeah.
Splitting
But the job is to carry on this Edenic covenant, this Edenic mandate. I will be your people, or I will be your God, you will be my people. We are going to be co-workers together. Right? I have put you in a garden. It has everything that you need. Walk in perfect integrity, follow my commands, my instruction. And he only gave one, right? Or he gave two. Work and don't eat that tree. Don't eat from that tree. And my brain has just gone blank again.
Well, I think the point of Josh's question was, I mean, I can tell you had the analogy with our children. I can tell a child all day, sit here and look at this cupcake and don't eat it. But the temptation's still there. And to his point, if they hadn't eaten of the fruit yet, they didn't know the difference between good and evil. So did they truly know how quote unquote wrong it was to go ahead and eat the fruit?
Well,
Our kids are at the age of accountability, basically.
Yeah, I mean, our
Yeah.
kids now, if
know
they
the
eat the
difference
cupcake,
between
I'm
right
like,
and wrong.
okay, well, now you're in trouble and no more cupcakes. But like,
But-
if it's a 3-year-old and they can reach the counter,
You can't. I'm not gonna
Well,
punish my 3-year-old because they just don't know any better. I'd keep the cookies out of reach, essentially. Like I wouldn't put the snake in the garden.
well, this is like I appreciate the analogy, but I don't think it's particularly apt. This was the Garden of Eden. Like it was perfect. Everything was suitable. You can eat from every tree. It was like they had everything they could ever want right there, all at their fingertips. And I believe that they were not going to eat from that tree as long as they were walking in integrity and being at peace.
but that doesn't necessarily answer the question, because 1, how do they know what integrity is? And 2, why did we let the serpent in there?
So we didn't let the serpent in.
Well, God had to have. It's his perfect garden. The serpent didn't have to be there.
Yeah. So there are the Orthodox have a tradition about this, and
I'm interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Orthodox, I believe, and please look this up. Please look everything I say up.
Oh, yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
But
sure.
One of the reasons that the serpent could even come and talk to Adam was because these serpents, which is another name for the watchers or the angels who are basically at the gates as protectors of Eden. The only reason this serpent could talk with Adam was because Adam was not where he was supposed to be, up on he was closer to the gate than he was.
Is that in like an apocryphal book or something?
I think that it would have to be apocryphal.
Yeah, I mean, probably in Enoch, I'm guessing, because Enoch really fills in that Genesis account.
I don't know if Enoch would talk about the Garden of Eden. It might be, and here's the thing.
You might be right actually on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Enoch definitely fills in a lot of the
Watchers and Sons of Man.
Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
And Satan got kicked out and stuff like that. Yeah,
very, very cool stuff.
Yeah,
super cool. I'm glad to hear you say that. If you guys, I don't know if you've ever looked up Dr. Michael Heiser.
No,
that doesn't ring a bell.
Very incredible guy. God rest his soul. He passed within 2 years, but he wrote a book about the sins of the Watchers and the Tower of Babel, and he kind of opened up the spiritual. The book is called The Unseen Realm, and he talks a lot about what the spiritual world looked like for the ancient Near East.
Cool. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you make a note of that?
Yeah, I made a note of that because when was Enoch written? Do you think?
I think
I'm putting it around the Hasmonean period, but I could be wrong on that.
the Hasmoneans. So the Hasmoneans, that would have been just before the construction of the Second Temple. So yeah, you might be right. I think it would probably be an between the temple, between the First and Second Temple period. There's a lot of it. Part of it reads like a rabbinical text, but there are lots of like parts that line up spiritually. And I think that it might have, I would put it at about 70% God inspired. It's definitely not the canon, right, of the faith.
So
but
do you think that the canon is 100% inspired? Because one of the things that I wrestled with was like, so we're talking about like the Garden of Eden is like, you know, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are the same, story, but like the, days that everything was created are like different. So it's kind of like, whoa, we're like 2 chapters in here and we've got like conflicting, like orders of how things were. And I grew up like inerrant, unaltered, inspired word of God. And like there's some things that you could think are like, okay, well that was a scribal error. Oh, that was just translation error. But then there's some things where they're just like holistically like just fundamentally different. And it's like,
yeah,
well, but what are your thoughts on that? Like Genesis 1 versus Genesis 2. Same story, different detail. Not even details, different
yeah.
complete orders and stuff.
I think when you look, I mean, even if you wanted to go into like Genesis 1, is this an accurate cosmological view of the universe, right? But as I recall, there were two, I think there were two lines. One was like J and one was H. There was another one,
Oh, that's
Levitical.
your
Like, have you
favorite thing to talk about.
yeah, yeah. It's so good to talk with you guys. It's wonderful
In
to
fact,
be here
isn't
with
that the
you.
book right there?
Yeah, I actually, I got, this is one of my favorites. So this is by Richard Elliott Freeman. It's The Bible with Sources Revealed. And it's actually, if you, I highly recommend this if you don't already have it. But what it does is it takes there's technically more than four sources, but obviously the four primary sources, the
You're right.
Yahwistic source,
Yeah.
Elohim, priestly, and then the Deuteronomical source. That's really hard to say.
That is a hard word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's
It's like
cool,
unfairly hard.
what's cool though is it color codes it literally. So obviously, like, and you obviously know, ancient Hebrew, like it shows like, okay, well, this is obviously referring to Yahweh. This is the Yahwistic source. Then you get into the priestly source. And so Genesis 1 was the priestly source. Genesis 2 is the Yahwistic source. So it's like we have like two different like accounts. They're slightly different. Now, are they theologically different?
Not always.
Not really, right? Who cares if God made man the last day or the first day? You know what I mean? Like and it wasn't the first day, but you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
when fish came versus when plants came. But it is interesting to me coming from a tradition where like I really struggled with that because I believed that the Bible was like God breathed. Like, why would there be four different sources? I thought it was all from the Word of God. Does that mean that like the 6 day order was like 60% right in the priestly source and 80% right in the Yahwistic source? And then which of the sources are the 20% that's not right and the 40% that's not right? It's just like I struggled with that. I'm interested.
But it
in
is fascinating to
Yeah.
be able to see it visually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially the Noah story. Oh my gosh. If you read the Noah story and you read just like the blue, it makes total sense. And then you read just the green, makes total sense. You read the Noah story as it is in the canon, you're like, is it 40 days? Is it 150 days? Oh, it's because they took the two and they blended them together and now it's a freaking chaos.
Oh, sure. And yeah, I really I really enjoy looking at that. That would be really cool. I'll have to check out the Noah account.
It's worth having the
In
print. I have it on
I
Kindle, but it's
I
harder to
might
follow.
actually buy this book. This
Yeah.
sounds very cool. Will you tell me what it is again?
Yes,
Do you
it's
have-
it's
you know
the Bible with sources revealed.
The Bible with
Bible
Sources
with sources
Revealed.
revealed by Richard Elliott Friedman.
And that's
Richard Elliott
FFIE.
Friedman.
Yep.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
I
it's
will
really good.
write this down right now. Thank you.
Oh, we love
Um,
reading. We love book recommendations. And a lot of them we do like audiobooks or Kindle books, but some of them are worth having the actual like visual in your hand. And this is one of those, I would say.
For sure.
All right. Very cool. Bible
Anyway,
with
got a little
Sources
derailed.
Revealed.
He was asking if we knew about the sources.
But-
We went running because we're nerds. Where were you going to go with that conversation?
Sure. Yeah, so Genesis 1, Genesis 2, I really like what there was something that you said, which was I really struggled with this because I was told, or I grew up in my tradition, that scripture is God breathed. And if you can you turn right now on the screen and you can just do the keyword search for God breathed. If it's in First Timothy, that'll be the first time I've gotten the book
I think
right.
you're right. I think it is Timothy. Hold on. If I do, can I see here? Breathe.
There you go.
All scripture is God breathed, useful for.
You got it. Yep. It's Second Timothy, but that's close enough in my book. Here, let me put it on
Yeah.
the screen here.
Right.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. All
Yep.
scripture is God breathed and useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. Nobody, no part in there says that the accounts that the Bible is giving need to be 100% what would you say? Scientifically accurate? Forensically indisputable? I think that we do well when we say these are the words of life. These are the words of God. I don't think that we need to be holding this very rigid view that things in the Bible must be 100% in line with modern thinking. And whether that is like, DNA tests and fingerprints or things like which order is which, I don't think like Genesis 1 right or is Genesis 2 right? Right?
Yeah.
So if I can try to restate, you're okay with a little bit of infallibility in the Bible?
I believe that the Bible is infallible. 2 Timothy 3:16. All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, training in righteousness. It would not be useful. It would not all be useful for correcting if it were not infallible.
Parts for different reasons.
Precisely.
You're doing
But
great
if
over there.
all of it is useful for correcting, the I believe.
So just to recap,
but-
he's okay with some infallibility. He says parts of it
Yeah.
are useful for teaching, parts of it
But-
for correcting, parts
but
for
I-
rebuking.
No. All scripture is useful. No, every aspect. All scripture. I think if you go into
But
the
not
Greek
for
right there,
necessarily each one of those things. Like some scripture
Well,
might be for teaching, some for correcting.
let
Or maybe I
me.
misunderstood.
Yeah, no, I think that's I think that would be a great thing. Let me return just momentarily. Scripture is is written as a benefit for us, but it was not written to us. It was written to a group of people who lived very different lives than we do in a different world than we lived in. I think that if God uses the culture of the ancient Near East in order to illustrate his ways of relating to humanity. You know, he doesn't need to say that the sun is a it's a gigantic nuclear furnace, right? It's enough for us to look at it and be like, this is the sun. The sun brings light. Light brings the day. The sun moves across the sky. The cosmology or the kind of structure of the world where there is water above a firmament, and then there's water under a firmament, and mountains go down to the depths of the sea. There's sea under the land, and down there is the realm of the dead. Like that's
because even because to your point, and I would definitely agree with that. That obviously it's being written to that people group. Because, like, for example, if you take like the laws of Hammurabi, the Hittite laws,
sure.
There's like they grafted out, right, where you can see all the different laws of the time, starting from like 2000 BC, or actually they go back farther than that to like I want to say like 2400 BC, up to CE, and it's like they all are very similar, like very similar. Of course, like
Yeah.
if you kill a slave, it's less it's less to pay than if you kill a woman. If you kill a man, it's more expensive than the woman. I mean, they have all the laws mapped out. They all line up with like Deuteronomy, Leviticus. Same thing with like slavery. In the science
Sure.
thing, it's also interesting to me because now I am not as adept in my knowledge of the Quran, but I do know, having talked to like Muslims, that's one thing that they've kind of got on Christians, is that they claim that their book actually didn't do that, and that their book was like, oh, Allah is better than this Christian version of the God and the Hebrew version of the God, which is why our
Sure.
prophet's more updated, because he actually did tell us things. So it'd be like, so for example, like I've got ancient Sumerian mythology and
Sure.
Babylonian mythology, and you read it, and yeah, it's the same story, right? Somebody got made out of clay. It's the same thing,
Sure.
same trope. We had a global flood, blah blah blah.
Okay, short story long.
Wouldn't it be cool though if God was like, actually, the Earth is a sphere and the sun goes like? Then I'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, I might actually believe this now, because they all thought that was crazy. Now, granted, it might have blown their minds too much and maybe people wouldn't have believed it. So that's maybe I can go along with like, no, let's keep this dome theory because people will believe that. This is way too far out there. But wouldn't it have been cool if God said, actually, you know what? Just don't have slaves. Or, you know
Yeah.
what? Let's not do harem and, genocide people. Like,
Right.
I mean,
Don't put
why?
anybody under the ban.
Right, exactly. Like, why didn't he do that? You know what I mean? Like, because if he,
Yeah.
that's kind of my question.
So I think that this is going to be a place where you're really going to like Michael Heiser's work.
Okay.
I can't recommend him highly enough. I think that if you are interested in figuring out that, long story short, the reason people got under the ban is because they were all giants or spawn of giants. And remember, that was like the OG impure mixture.
Which, by the way, OG was also a giant, King Og, if you remember.
Oh, that's good. I like.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. You're right. He was Og and Bashan, right?
That's right.
That's in Genesis. That's in the Yahweh's version. Yeah,
All
this is,
coming full circle, guys.
that's great. It's
That
it's
was a
all
good
coming
one.
together.
Every once in a while, he gets one.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The reason people got under the ban was because they were giants, and they were continuing to propagate the sin of the Tower of Babel, or the sin of the Watcher, and the continuation of the Tower of Babel, and this that. So when Christ came, I'll dive briefly into Michael Heiser's work because it's so cool. If you were to ask a Second Temple Yahweh worshiper, why is the world messed up? Right? They would say, because of these two things, right? We all know them. What are the first two things, right?
Sin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not fair. I ought not to put you on the spot. Excuse me.
No, you're good. I'm cool.
No. So it's the rebellion in heaven, and then the fall of man.
Yep.
Right? Why is the world messed up? Well, we got problems in the metaphysical. We got problems in the natural. There's also a third issue that they know about and talk about, and that is the sins of the Watchers. Right? The Tower of Babel, the intermingling of the sons of God, angels, with the daughters of men, and they make these heroes of old.
So did they
And
come
also,
back after the flood? Because I thought that was why God wiped everyone out, was because that was happening. But then if only Noah and his family survived the flood, how did then there get to be giants back on the earth unless one of them like stowed away on the ship?
okay, that's a really good question. I think that is outstanding evidence for a localized flood. I think that is outstanding evidence for a localized flood. It's very hard for God to protect a remnant of, and okay.
But I thought he was like trying to get two of every animal. Like he was going to wipe, according to the text. Now, this could be one of those things where it's like the text was like God breathed, but it wasn't like, 100% accurate. Noah got two of every kind of local animal. Now, that's actually way more believable because I have questions about penguins and kangaroos when it comes to that boat. You know what I'm saying?
Outstanding. Yeah. And I'll do you a better one. How many different kinds of beetles are there?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Great.
I don't
Right?
even know, but I don't want to be on a boat with that many beetles, that's
No.
for sure.
I believe that is a localized flood, and I believe that it's concentrated around the sons of Adam. I think there were other proto-hominids walking around the earth. I think every culture on earth has something like that. Whether it's like the brownies or the pixies or the leprechauns. I mean, we've already, and I don't know if this is politically correct or not, but I look at an African pygmy, and I'm like, I don't even know if we're technically, like, I believe you've got a soul, but I don't know if we're the same type of human. Like that's a different, that might be a different creature. I don't know. But
I mean, scientifically, like my leaning on that is that we're all like Homo sapien, but there are probably like there were other like there were the Denisovians, there was the Homo erectus, there was
right.
Neanderthals, and they were all around. Sort of like when you go to a jungle and there's multiple kinds of like apes. There was a time on Earth where there were multiple types of humanoids. But yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, we all in science like. And we can now with DNA, of course, we can actually trace this. Like we can actually see how much like Denisovans in one Neanderthal versus another, because there was actually even some like intermingling back then. Obviously now it's that was tens of thousands of years
Yeah.
ago. but going back to your point, so you're thinking that there was a localized flood,
I
um, and that's how like the giants that that's how they survived to be able to like populate Canaan, so that the Israelites needed to come and just like wipe them out. Now that's an interesting question because, and maybe it was because of it was a faith lesson is the only like harmony I can give here, because it's like, well, was God not powerful enough to wipe him out? But maybe he needed to leave him there to test the Israelites and be like, hey, by the way, I left these giants here for you just to test your guts. You know what I mean? Or like,
yeah, I think that this is once again like God as creator and then things go awry is a pretty it lines up a lot, right? He is the creator, he is the sovereign, but he ensouls things, he puts souls into stuff, he creates angels with both incredible power and free will, or rather the ability to make one of two decisions. The Catholics know this one, right? Servium, non-servium, right? I will serve, I won't serve, and that, by the way, is one of the reasons why the Catholics venerate Mary so much, is because she did the opposite of Satan. When
What do you mean by
God,
that?
so Mary said, "Be it to me according to thy word." Is that right from the Rosary?
I don't remember that phrase from the Rosary. The Rosary is.
Behold the handmaiden of the Lord. Be it according to me unto thy.
I mean, the Hail Mary's in there.
Well, that
There is
the
a
Rosary's.
prayer.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the Hail Mary. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
I'm not a very
Rosary
good
is a
Catholic.
series of prayers.
I'm not a Catholic.
No, that's okay. That phrase.
But
Most of the Mary lore is like drilled in here because Catholics do love their Mary. But yeah, that
yeah,
particular phrase is not ringing a bell.
yeah. So she basically says, "Lord, you do what you do what you're going to do." And I think Saint Michael also allegedly responds "Servium," like I will serve, when Lucifer doesn't. Again, Catholic lore, apocryphal, if or I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I got off track.
well, and I don't want to get too far off track because there's
We
something
were
that like,
talking about giants.
yeah, well, here is what was crazy. It was not crazy, interesting to me because nothing's crazy. This is all, and this was what's
Well, sometimes
interesting.
that's crazy to think about.
Well, these are what's interesting about like we're dealing with like these ancient texts and texts that have to be like resolved. So like, and I was like eyeballs deep in Norman Geisler apologetics, right? So like I just was
Sure.
trying to explain why things were the way they were, even though sometimes it didn't make sense. And I really like your take on the Bible being God breathed, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% accurate. But here's a great example. So like to your point, like with the Watchers, right, that came up in like Enoch, and maybe they had a reason for the Nephilim like coming later or whatever, or a localized
Yeah.
flood. The Jewish community didn't believe that for a second. Like they thought when it said it flooded the earth, it flooded the earth. And so in the Talmud, they actually explained how the Nephilim like survived. And here's what's crazy, not crazy, interesting. I need to stop saying that. They believed that like all of the fish in the sea died, and they said, well, the only reason why that could happen is because the water must have had to have boiled to kill all the fish, because it wasn't just like, you know, just the birds and the animals got it and the people, but even the fish got wiped out. So then they ran into the problem later. Someone must have brought up, what about the giants? Because, when Caleb and Joshua go into Jericho, there's the giants in there, right?
Right.
And the Talmud, it's actually, I had to look it up to make sure I wasn't fact checking myself. It's Zevakim 113a and Nida 61a. and it said that Og, the OG, king of Bashan, held on to the boat, held on to the
Oh,
ark, but he had to like dodge the boiling water, and he did it like and this I'm not pulling up, so I don't think I'm wrong on this though. He actually like also had like a beast he was like riding. That could be untrue because I'm not seeing that in the
wait,
fact
hang
check.
on. Are they saying that he was riding the Leviathan?
I don't know about the
Maybe.
Leviathan because I think it was a like a creature with legs. That could be wrong. I could be misremembering that. But definitely in those passages of the
Clinging to
Talmud,
the ark.
he survived by clinging to the ark because it flooded the whole earth. And then he jumped off, and of course that's how the giants survived. Of course, he must have mated with one of Noah's, kids as kids or something. But it's
Sure.
interesting. It's just interesting the amount of like sometimes like, well, this has to be. It's like if
Mm.
you believe something has to be true, you can always come up with a reason
Mm.
why it's true. You just got to work your way backwards. You know what I mean? It's a little bit
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think reason follows where the heart wills.
dude, that's a yeah, somebody that's a great quote.
You, yeah. No, that's Charlotte Mason.
I was gonna say that I've heard that before. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right. I I wanted to I just briefly, and I realized that we're coming to the end of. Oh my gosh, you guys have been at this for 2 hours. God love you.
Time goes.
Are
This
you
is fun.
having? Are you?
Honestly,
Yeah, we
hasn't
love
felt
this.
that long at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
This has been such a wonderful time. I don't need to leave, but I do want to be mindful of your time and get other people on the show if you'd like them on the show.
Yeah,
They
we
got to
But
be
to.
brave enough to call up. Everyone's scared of us.
We're so nice.
well, if there's anybody waiting in the wings, let me know at
I will
any
let you
time.
know
But
for
I
sure. But
but
continue your line of
but
thought.
I did want to come back to um your question. Christians, why do you still believe?
Sure.
Um and we have gotten into some very cool stuff, and um nothing prohibiting me from believing. Nothing that prohibits me from believing, because I believe that Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary, conceived by the Holy Spirit, lived a sinless life. I believe that he was tortured and crucified. None of his bones were broken. And that he died, and in accordance with all of the prophecies of the Old Testament, that he was resurrected on Easter Sunday. Like, the entirety of why I or anyone should believe anything about the Bible is wrapped up in the character and the life and the witness of Jesus Christ and the things that he says, and the love that he showed for humanity in his suffering and in his crucifixion.
So
I
but what about what about other like teachers, leaders like that? Now, a couple questions. So first of all, like of course we have like Confucius spoke, very similarly. Hillel came 100 years before Jesus and probably didn't coin the golden rule, but we have written that he you know had the
he
golden
he he
rule.
had the opposite of the
The
golden rule.
opposite,
Do
yeah, it was
not
like
do
a
not do
reverse.
yeah yeah do not
Yeah,
do to
yeah.
others what you do not want done to you.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's like people like the Buddha, and these all came like well before Jesus, and then even one of Jesus's contemporaries, Epictetus. Like if you read the Enchiridion, which is also called just the Handbook by Epictetus, it's interesting because we have just the sayings of Jesus, whether you're reading the Q source or if you lump in whether or not the Q source is even real or not. But if you lump in just the sayings of Jesus and read it, it's not a whole lot of text. Now there's the narrative, which got added to that, right? Or, however you want to like put that. Because here's another thing, like you've got Mark and you've got Luke, and you've got them telling like the Sermon on the Mount two different places in two slightly different ways. So it's one of those things where it's like the concept of what Jesus said. We've gotten to the point now through this conversation that I think we can agree that like the Bible wasn't like 100% like accurate in its accounting of results, right? Like Genesis 1 versus Genesis 2, they aren't exactly right, but the concept is the same. So like Matthew is slightly different than Luke. I mean, you can do pretzels about the birth narratives, but like it's okay, the concept is the same. So I feel like based off of like the Gospels, and even then if you put in kind of like the Pauline letters, you get like a concept of what Jesus was about. And other than I didn't come to bring peace but bring the sword and some of those things, overall Jesus taught love, compassion, but it's also a little bit like the fact that it got put onto the Old Testament creates this like whiplash, because the God of the Old Testament was like different. He was like the stern father, Jesus was the loving son, and that's how we harmonize it. But if you look at some of these other teachers, like the Buddha, like Epictetus, you don't have that baggage that they had to put on it. In fact, it's why the Gnostics were creating like Yahweh was the demiurge, because they just couldn't. They were like, ain't no way that was Jesus's dad. That guy's psycho. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
so then you get like Marcion and all the Gnostics, because they just couldn't equate this loving Jesus. So I guess my question is like, I also love the teachings of Jesus. I had a family who loved the teachings of the Old Testament, and there was a very big dichotomy with how we like went about our life. So why Christianity and not like Buddhism or Stoic philosophy?
Why Christianity? Again, I have to refer back to Jesus and his life and testimony is nothing else compares. Confucius was a wise man. And I believe that wisdom is divinely inspired too, right? Lao Tzu, Kongzi, they're smart guys. Buddha was a very astute mystic. And all of these guys died like men. But only one of them resurrected.
Allegedly.
That would be a sticking
That's
point.
actually a pretty good place to start. Because that I think you're right. I think. Oh, and we might have just froze. Did we? All right. I think we are back.
Can you guys confirm in the chat if you can hear us again? We had a little glitch there. I think we got reloaded.
I see I've ascended.
You have ascended. Hey, now you're in the right spot. Didn't mean to sabotage you the first time there. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
We reserve that for our friends down.
Oh,
not
fair
you're
enough.
a friend now, but you can stay up there. That's cool.
Thank you. That's kind of you. Yes, it's fitting that we were talking about Enoch an hour ago, and now all of a sudden we're doing the world tour.
Hey, it's cool. I mean, why not, right?
We were
Why
in a
not?
very interesting spot when that happened, when it glitched out. What were you guys talking about?
Why we know that Jesus resurrected versus
the resurrection
like
stories.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like yeah, or yeah, because you were saying that basically makes him different, like because some of these other like teachers, they also had really great prolific and like positive things.
Yeah.
But Jesus resurrected, so that makes him different.
Well, I think that that's certainly one part of what made him different. I think, and if we want to go into further parts, I wanted to let you know up front that there are a number of other things than resurrection. For example, I don't think Lazarus is the Christ, right? There are prophecies that Jesus fulfilled, including like God himself resurrecting the body. There's a verse, I think, that Christ says that he himself will bring himself back to life, which destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days. Right?
That is a
Like
verse
that
for sure.
that is a massive it's a massive claim.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that's where, yeah, anyway, I'll let you talk.
No, I think that's interesting. No, I'm with you on that because truthfully, right? If Jesus really rose from the dead, um, you know, that would obviously that would put him in a different category, right? Than like the other teachers.
Yeah,
But you know, I mean, there's plenty of people that don't believe he rose from the dead because there are people in history that have claimed to have risen from the dead. Like there were eyewitnesses. We had like Nero's probably the biggest example where he like had probably an imposter because he physically like had an actual human that claimed to be Nero after Nero died and raised an army of like tens of thousands of Parthians to go attack Rome and died for him.
sure.
You know what I'm saying? And like I don't believe that Nero rose from the dead, but these people believed so much and they physically saw him in the flesh and were like, this is Nero. And they like sacked Rome on the belief that Nero like rose from the dead. Um, like, what are your thoughts on that sort of thing? Where it's like, you know, there's been other resurrection accounts of a person who rose themselves from the dead, and like,
Sure.
obviously, there's plenty of Caesar accounts of Caesar's raising from the dead. But like, you know, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I think the I think you need to look at the power dynamics of a case like that. What what do Jesus's followers gain if Christ does not rise from the dead?
Well, I think that's a very good question on both sides of the debate.
Oh, they
Yeah.
don't gain. They all die. They all die bloody. And
Technically, the only actual like reference we have of like an apostle dying is from the Gospel of Philip, which is Peter's death. But in that gospel, you also have like a baby who like starts talking from its mother's teat, and I think there's like
A
a
dog.
dog
A
that
dog that
talks
gives a speech for
and
sure.
gives a speech. So I don't know about that one.
no,
So
well,
like we
hang
don't
on a
necessarily
second.
know Stephen, but
Yeah, no, Stephen as the first martyr for the faith. Yeah, no, that is I would say that is probably stronger evidence because he's not even talking about somebody that he knew. I want to be careful because I don't know. So the account, I'm going to start
yeah, the Acts
real
account, yeah.
slow. I'm going to
No, you're
start
good.
real slow one more time.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So happy almost end of Lent. Today was Good Friday. Christ is crucified, dies at the 3rd hour, screams out,
Except for
my
Depending on
God.
when you're reading.
That's Mark. Mark is 3rd hour. John is 9th hour. Go ahead.
Cool.
Sorry.
At the dark time.
Yep.
And then it is finished, done. He goes, he dies, he is resurrected on the 3rd day. And then he is seen by multiple people, crowds, and many people who bore witness to him after he was resurrected.
So
in his glorified body.
Who were the people that saw him?
That's a good question. Let's pull up the text. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pose like
No, you're
that.
good.
Would
No,
you
absolutely.
kindly?
Anytime
Please.
you want to pull up the text,
Yes.
that's
We're
Yeah.
past that.
That's
We're
my
friends now.
go-to.
You
Yeah,
can
Okay,
tell us
all
what
right.
you're thinking.
Very good.
let's see here. Boom. Whoops.
Oh yeah, we got to reshare it.
Cool.
I went on to the YouTube. There's a fist fight in the comments. It was
There always is.
it's
cool.
yeah.
That's why I said
I
the
was like,
comments are largely garbage.
We did
Not all.
we did get a comment though that there should be more debates like this. Like we do take a little bit more of like a conversational approach. So we can all use reason. It's cool.
yeah, no, it's good to be in a conversation with you guys.
I agree.
This is
Appreciate it.
such a gift. Yeah. The text seen by multitudes, seen by 500 would probably be let's do
that's
seen by
Paul.
500. That's a good
Yep.
keyword.
Yep. That's gonna be Paul. Uh-oh. Hold on, I know it's Paul. Let me see if I can.
Oh, this is the NIV too. Yeah. NIV is readable, but I read the interlinears.
Oh yeah.
With the Greek and the Hebrew. And I love it, but it's also very difficult to remember, like, okay, what is this in normal people English?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get this. I got this. Okay, here we go. 1 Corinthians
You were right, it
15,
was Paul.
3-8. Yeah.
Okay.
This is actually Paul. Okay, cool. Okay. For what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, who is Peter, and then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time, most of whom are still living, though some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all of the apostles, and last of all, he appeared to me also as one abnormally born. And I think the other text says born of the wrong time or something like that, because of course he, saw him in like a more of a vision type version.
Yes.
So it looks like we have
Although
Peter.
it was the others around him also heard the noise from heaven. I don't know if they heard. I don't think that they heard the words specifically, but they did hear the noise from heaven.
Can we totally do that after this? Because I
You
love
betcha.
that passage.
You
Oh man.
betcha.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You
I
betcha.
just get really
And
excited.
just to interject, we love Adam and we'll keep this going, but if anyone in the comments does also want to come up and chat with us.
Yeah. We don't want to
We
Yes.
we don't want you to feel discouraged because we're still talking to Adam. Pop up in the box and we will I have the feeling Adam might like and subscribe our channel and come back another time.
Hopefully.
So
I would love to.
I'm hopefully putting that idea in his head. So this is
I would
not
love
the
to.
end, even if it ends. But yeah, just letting everyone know, please feel free to call on up and we can chat about what you believe or what your thoughts are. But continue.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got so it looks like Peter first, right? And then to the 12 disciples, which we read about in the Gospels, he appeared to them in the upper room. I assume that's what Paul's referring to here. And then he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time. Okay, so we've got like 500, most of whom are still living, though some have fallen asleep. Then James, and then again to all the apostles, which I assume are the 12 again, or maybe there was
Or at last he appeared. No, because that's not in this line. Then he appeared to James. James is 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in any case, so he appeared for sure, according to Paul, he appeared to Peter, James, the 12, and then 500.
Sure, more than 500. Yeah.
So, okay. Now, this is where how do I want to go with this? There are accounts in history where there are hundreds or thousands of witnesses of a miraculous event. So, for example, like there were hundreds of eyewitnesses of Muhammad splitting the moon in two. But like, do we believe that Muhammad actually like split the moon in two?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
That's fair.
So if that's
That's
possible
honest.
that Muhammad might have split the moon into, and this is the same thing I get when I talk to like my mom about like, well, do you believe that like Vishnu did this? And she's like, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, that's an open-minded approach.
Yeah.
But I just it's like, okay, so can I give you my quick take on what I think actually happened?
Sure.
Okay. So I think, and I'm promising to make this quick. Okay.
I won't cut you off unless you need
Get
me to.
rambly. Okay.
I shouldn't
Okay.
laugh.
So
You should.
I think so I think you had Jesus teaching a message. I think that, it was probably for the most part kind of what we have. I think that you had him with a band of very, very loyal followers. These loyal followers gave up their families, as written in the text, and left their families, left their jobs to follow him. And they followed him for 3 years, went through crazy stuff. Whether or not they actually saw miracles or not, maybe they did. But what happened was they believed, as they argued back and forth amongst each other, that they were going to rule the coming kingdom of God. Now, as according to the text, they also believed at that time that it was going to be on earth, like a physical kingdom.
Mhm.
Well, then they go in, and when Jesus gets crucified, you notice it's not like they're like, oh, sweet, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. And they all
Oh
hung
yeah.
around and they were like, yeah, buddy, you did it. And then Jesus is like, it is finished. Or, why have you forsaken me? Or, depending on which like quote
Right.
is the ending quote. They were like running out of there. And so the only technical witness of the crucifixion were the women that stayed at a distance. So who knows what Jesus even actually said, right? But like the only witnesses really were the women. The other disciples had like skated out of there. So then you've got these band of people that like staked their entire lives on this, and all of a sudden now their leader's dead. And they probably were getting back together, and they probably were like, this is the end of the world, the end of our lives. Who knows what they thought? I swear, and you can see this before with like any modern cult, any modern group that is like fervently into something. If someone comes into the room and says, guys, I swear the other day I was in the marketplace and I saw him. Or, Mary, I thought it was the gardener, but it was Jesus. Or
Mm.
the two dudes on the road. We thought it was just some dude we were talking to. And then all of a sudden it was Jesus. He like disappeared. All it would take was one person saying that, and you got a massive domino effect. I think that they would run with it. Some people believe that there was like a Jesus imposter, sort of like
Kind of like
Nero
Nero.
and some of like these other resurrection stories. I personally think that it doesn't even take an imposter. It just takes like, if you to what was the quote you said before? Your heart follows.
Your reasoning.
Yeah. Reason follows where the heart leads.
Exactly. I think it's that, only to a fever pitch, because these
Mm.
people just saw their leader crucified. Like, could you imagine? That's
Well,
To
and beyond that,
the
if they gave up
trauma.
their families, if you don't get
Yeah.
married, you quit your job. I mean, whatever, all of the things you're supposed to do, the time is imminent. We're going to.
the world's ending.
Well, and frankly, they were all scared of being scooped up by the Jewish authorities
Also that.
and or the Roman authorities. I mean, Christ. Christ was a major threat to the Jewish existing power structure, but he was also, I believe, a threat to the Roman power structure.
Yeah, I think that's why he was crucified, because during that time there was many. Many. In fact, I'm reading a book right now that's super good. It's called Zealot, and I can't remember the author. But it basically it's an excellent portrayal of the time period where you have the Jewish people were like being harshly oppressed by the Romans, and
Hmm.
the Romans were pressing on them back because it was kind of like this push against each other, right? Because the Romans were
Sure.
like, can't you people just like chill out and worship Caesar like a god like the rest of the people? But here you gotta not worship Caesar and worship Yahweh only. Like, what the heck, man? Just buy into Caesar like everyone else
Yeah.
does. And it was just this constant struggle. So the Romans would crush down to the point where like it was just, I mean, obviously, and then it came to the point where then all of Jerusalem was destroyed.
Oh yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I think that's kind of the thing where it's like, I don't know, it's just this like kind of situation. Oh, where I was going with that is this book that I'm reading talks about all of the different messiahs during that time period. You had like Simon Magus. Later we had Simon Ben Kokva. You had the Egyptian. You had the Samaritan. I want to say Theodos. Theodos. I don't know. I can pull them up. But there's like
Sure.
multitudes of these Messiah figures. Now, what Jesus had that the others didn't, and there was a ton of them. In fact, if you look in like 30 CE, a Messiah got crucified. 33 CE, Jesus got crucified. 36 CE, another guy got his head cut off up in the woods with his followers. Like, there's all these like
Sure.
King of the Jew messiahs that keep appearing and appearing and appearing because they're all in this like apocalyptic mentality where it's like, we can't take this anymore. There's going to be a Messiah. They're going to save us. And so they were popping out of the woodwork. Now, what happened that was different from Jesus versus the others? Jesus had a resurrection story. So his followers believed they saw him. And I feel like it just shot down the pipe at that point. And then Stephen, who wasn't one of the 12, he heard from his buddy, dude, we saw Jesus. He came back. He went into heaven. This was a divine plan. And now you've got Stephen believing it flat out. I mean, all those people that died at Waco, they didn't see
Sure.
God. They believed to the death that David Koresh was the Messiah. And same thing with all
Yeah.
the hundreds of people that died from Jim Jones. They didn't hear God directly, but they believed to the death that Jim Jones was the prophet of God and had a divine plan. I don't know. I'll stop there, but that's kind of where my head's at on this whole thing.
Sure. I think that how do I put it politely?
No,
I
put
don't-
it bluntly. That's fine.
I don't know of any group that essentially continues and maintains the in power and authority after how would I say this? The way that groups are usually founded is that you have an energetic, highly agentic founder. You have a
Charismatic
second in
leader.
command who is a loyal general, essentially, and then you have other managers, and then you have the everyday people, right? That's kind of how most structures of humanity work. I don't know of any. Basically, if you want to end something, you go up and you swing at the king, right? John Wilkes Booth did it. Like, if you want to put something down, you kill the guy in charge. That's the way to get other people to fall in line. And I think the interesting thing about Christ and the Christian story that strikes me as different or noteworthy is that, one, you see what I just outlined. You see the command structure disintegrate. Christ is killed. Everybody goes off. Peter goes back to fishing.
But it said that Peter was one of the eyewitnesses along with James, who then became the two leaders of the church.
Yes. But in the between time, Peter went fishing.
Where was that found? I could be wrong that I just don't know that part.
Yeah, go look it up.
Okay, I'll put it
all of which is just to say, I don't know precisely where it's found. But Peter went back fishing. Christ dies. Peter goes back to his day job. That is not.
I do want to push back on that one a little bit, because I don't feel like he just went back, but I could be totally wrong on that. If anyone in the chat knows, and I will try to find that. But okay, let's grant that that's the case. So Peter goes back to fishing. He's just like, I'm at a loss. Jesus is dead. I'm going back to fishing. And then he's one of the people that sees Jesus. He's like, whoa, guys, on second thought, I just saw Jesus.
I think somebody else, the women saw him first, right? And then,
well, that's true, because if you read the Gospel of John, Peter saw Jesus, or Peter saw the angel. So I don't know why he would have went back to fishing.
So is it just like for the day in between?
Because depending on which gospel you read,
did Peter go fishing on the Sabbath because? Wait, how would he have gone fishing? How would he have gone fishing in Jerusalem?
Yeah,
there's no water in Jerusalem.
You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. So if he was going to go back to being a Jew,
and you're in mourning, this can't be the proper. I've got this story upside down.
You're good. But regardless, okay. So regardless, you've got this is where I think that if you're the leader of the group, so Peter was second in command. So this would be like when David Koresh was having the conversations with the FBI. And most of the time, it wasn't him. I shouldn't say most of the time, because there were a ton of phone conversations. But a lot of the time, his second in command was on, which would have been like the Peter equivalent. And what happens is Peter and James, the two leaders of the church, are the ones that Paul mentions. They saw him. Then the 12 saw him. So you kind of get this evolution of the two main guys saw him, and then the rest also saw him, and the 500 saw him. And you got to keep in mind, Paul's writing this decades later, at least 2 decades later, and this is from a guy who didn't get along with Peter and James necessarily, but wants to forward the story, the narrative that Jesus, because Paul's entire theology revolves around Jesus raising from the dead. Essentially,
I agree with that part, certainly. I mean, he even says that there's nobody more pathetic or more pitiable than Christians if Christ did not rise from the dead, which is true. I mean,
well, and here's where I think it gets interesting, because one of my biggest struggles when I first
started. Can I?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to check, because I believe this letter. Did you say that this was Paul in the book of Acts, or is he writing this letter to?
This was 1 Corinthians 15:8 was about the
15:3 through 8.
Yeah, 15:3 through 8.
Okay, so he's writing to the church in Corinth.
Yep.
Okay.
By the way, what I wouldn't give for all of Paul's letters. We know that there were so many others that we don't have. It would be interesting to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it would be very cool.
Okay, you're in.
Hopefully in the new age.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, hey, what is it? The caves in Qumran, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls were only discovered in the late 40s, 60s, 60s.
1947.
47.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah. By two shepherds
Yeah,
out there throwing rocks into holes in the cave to find a lost sheep.
it's amazing. Yeah.
By the way,
It's
if you ever want to do a deep dive into, and you maybe already have, like a deep dive into like the Dead Sea Scrolls, something that's very interesting about that is it really sheds light on what was happening at the time of Jesus, because the community that actually like hid all these away, they believed that their leader was either the Messiah or the Messiah was coming. Like they believed that there was a priestly Messiah and a king Messiah,
mhm.
and they wrote the community rule, which it's crazy. Just read the community rule. It's all about like we are the way, we are the light, and it's like all about. It's so like parallels like the New Testament. It like blows your mind. And then they have the Habakkuk Pesher, which is taking all the prophecies of Habakkuk and it tells you their translation of it and their interpretation, I should say, which is like how their leader and how their Messiah is coming, and how Habakkuk's predicting this individual, just like Christians will take Isaiah and project Isaiah 53 onto Jesus. And then there's the War Scroll, which is sad because the War Scroll talks about how nothing is going to be able to stop them because the powers of heaven will defend them. And literally, that's when they took all of their texts and all their scrolls, sealed them up in the jars, and put them in the caves because they believed that they were going to go out to this other city, fight the Romans,
Oh
and
my
come
God.
back for their library. And the War Scroll literally says, "Fear not." It describes how they're supposed to make their armor, the things that they're
Sure.
supposed to put on their shields,
Oh my
because the
God.
angels are going to come down and fight with them and defeat the Romans. And the reason why the texts are still there is because they didn't beat the Romans. They just got wiped completely out. And that's the only reason we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, because they thought the angels were going to come down and fight with them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said you were going to stop
I
saying
was going to
crazy.
stop saying crazy.
No, that
Sorry.
was no, that is very interesting. I did not know all of that. I actually had the opportunity to go and see some of the fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls
Really?
very
Wow.
recently. It was
Oh,
very
really?
cool. Yes. And
awesome.
yeah, it was very cool. I hope they're the real ones, because like on the one
closer than
hand I'm
I've
like,
been.
this is on the one hand it's like, this is impossible, and I'm like, I believe things that can be impossible, right? Like that doesn't really stop like that. Just because somebody says it's impossible doesn't actually make it impossible.
Very true. Very true.
So yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
I
very
feel like
cool.
you derailed him, though.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
derail you. We
no,
were talking
I
about like the witnesses and
Well,
like
something came up, and then the Dead Sea
no,
Scrolls, and then you nerded out again. I try, Adam.
you're
she
doing
tries.
great. You're doing great.
There's only so much I can do.
You're doing the most. You're doing the most. It's grand. It's just
At the
grand.
very least, I could try to remember
The track.
the trail, the bunny trail.
Yes. No, this is definitely, we are in little bunny foo-foo territory. We are all over the map, because this is such, I mean, and this is one of the things, it's like faith and meaning and the matters of the heart and the soul, they're so deep, and so, I mean, they're as big as we are. So I mean, how can you not get lost going into it? We're trying to navigate tremendous amounts of information and complex relationships. It's a task that's worthy. It's a worthy task. So
I am
yeah.
interested though, like, so if we don't know for sure, like, because we've agreed that it's not like 100% factually true. So let's say because it doesn't say, like in any of the Gospels, about the 500, right? So if none of the Gospels mention the 500, they mention the 12. In one of the Gospels, they mention, Peter. In one of the Gospels, they mention, Mary. Um, Paul doesn't mention Mary. Um, how do we know which one of these is true? Is it the 500 that's true? Is it the Mary that's true? Like, how do we know what is true when it comes to like who saw Jesus afterwards?
I would say all of them. I would say all of them, and the chronology is anyone's guess. I mean, I think that I can tell you what happened on the day of my best friend's funeral, but I can't tell you everything. And even in
Right.
this conversation, we start we there this is any conversation, but you start and you do your best to convey a very complex topic in a straightforward manner, and you do what you can to get to the end of it. You get to the end of it, and then it spawns off all of these other little um, trails or feeders. I think that the information that is given in the scripture in these letters is true. I believe that all of these events happened. If
How
they
can you
got
be
a
sure though?
if they got a detail, how can I be sure?
Yeah.
Hmm. What what is the what's the threshold for how sure someone needs to be?
Well, basing your entire life off of it.
Fair enough. Um, how can I be sure? Well, there are the I could go into the Lee Strobel and the case for Christ and all of that, but that's not why I believe. I
Yeah, and honestly, I'm more
I
interested in your opinion than theirs. I can
yeah,
read that.
yeah. Ask me the question one more time, sorry.
Yeah, so how can you be sure that it's true? Like, that like all of the witnesses or part of the witnesses, or you know what I mean? Like, how can you be sure that that's true?
Because the fruits that came out of this life and this doctrine and everything are so good. I think you can absolutely judge this story by its fruits. Um, and the fruits of the spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. I think you can also judge it based on the contemporary dissenters and what they were fighting about. I don't think they were fighting about whether, you know, there was a large group of people who claimed to have seen Jesus in um, in a certain location. I think that you can't. Um, yeah, I'm.
But I guess so
It's
based off of the
yeah.
fruits thing, so like on the fruits thing though, like so one of the nicest people, like so I've known a lot of people. Obviously, I'm in the United States, so a lot of the people around me. I'm in the Midwest, so most of the people are Christian, right?
Oh, sure.
But like I had an extremely nice friend in college, and she would do anything for anyone, was super kind. And then when I found out that she was Buddhist, in fact, that she even had a thing that said like Jesus was a Buddha type of thing, I was like, "Why? Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. How can you possibly have these virtues and be Buddhist, right?" Like, and then now, like for example, like I adhere to some of the more I say modern philosophers, but it's still like 100 CE philosophers, right? Where
Yeah,
they're talking about like you know I know,
that's
isn't
great.
it awesome? We
Yeah,
haven't moved past like 2,000 years. We're just stuck in that. But
yeah,
but the virtue of like of like the Stoics were like virtue as number one, and then courage, wisdom, and courage, wisdom, virtue. Dang it! I was just saying in my head, and I was forgetting courage,
Well,
so I'm forgetting the fourth
yeah.
tenet. But it's like if it's the fruits of the faith or of the religion or of the message,
Then how can other
then
people be
then
good people?
and then if you say, well, your guy didn't raise from the dead, then I would say, well, I don't necessarily believe that your guy rose from the dead. And then you're kind of at this like impasse where it's like, if I see three different people having a conversation, let's say I have a very nice Hindu person, a
hmm
very nice Christian person, and a very nice Muslim person, and they're all having a conversation about their faith and how their life was changed. They were on the street, they were bad, and then they started believing, and guess what, they all grew up in the country of faith that they were taught when they were a kid, and now they went back to it, or never really believed when they were a kid, but now they believe, and it changed their life. How am I to tell the difference between the three and which one's true? Because for me, I want to know, especially if I'm basing my entire life off of something, not necessarily what just makes me feel good or have fruits, but what's actually true. That's the question, I guess.
yeah. I think so. That's a great question. The feel good aspect of Christianity, I think, is played up a lot, and I think that there are a lot of people um, who are more. Christ said that if any man should come after me, he must deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow him daily. Pick up his cross daily and follow him. So, self denial, willing participation in self sacrifice, and pursuing the message of Christ. That those virtues are not. That's not a universal set of virtues. Um,
It's
and
not uncommon though in some of those. You got to admit, like a lot of
the,
those are all about like sacrifice, like
I would,
to
I think that if you look at, for example, um, if you were to look at Hinduism, a lot of the sacrifice is still the old god system of make a sacrifice so that your god will give you a boon. Um,
right. Because there's two different
and
types of Hinduism, right? There's the more like theistic one or pantheistic one, and then there's like the less. But I'll grant you that one for sure. Yeah.
yeah, I think that if we're talking about sacrifices, I mean, it's very hard to separate a practicing. I suppose if you wanted to make an argument that because Buddha was a Hindu, um, that there's a lot of overlap there.
You know,
I,
but can I
yeah,
jump in? So does the self-sacrifice, and this goes back to my thought process on why we ended up here in the first place, and I think that Christianity became so big because it became the belief competing with Mithraism of the Roman soldier,
mm,
and then for probably personal reasons, because his mom supposedly was a Christian, and also for political reasons, Constantine made it legal. And then Theodosius, just like, for my opinion, the reason why Stephen got stoned, it wasn't him that was directly a follower of Jesus, but he knew a guy who talked him into it. Well, Theodosius was a down the line from Constantine, made it the Roman religion. And at that point, it was either believe or get the sword. So that's like future forward. But think of the Old Testament. Now, granted, there was the whole sacrifice scene with Abraham where it's like, would you sacrifice your son? But, and I'm sure, I mean, we both know the Old Testament, but I'm kind of quickly scanning it with my brain here. The Old Testament wasn't all about sacrificing yourself for God as much as obeying God. It was more like obey God. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit interesting. I'm just wondering if the whole self-sacrifice thing was more because Jesus died and then they had to quickly pivot and say, well, that was all part of the plan. He died and sacrificed for us so that we could all go to heaven. And then all of a sudden Christianity became the sacrificing, self-sacrifice, like Jesus committing suicide on the cross. It was more of like a, well, then
I
we
don't
all
think they would
must.
say committing suicide.
Right, but like, I mean,
Well,
if he knew
actually,
what was
no.
gonna
I think
happen.
I think that's no man can take my life from me, for I lay it down willingly. I think suicide might be an appropriate. I think that might be an appropriate label.
And I don't disagree, but I do think that there would be people who would balk at the word.
That's fair.
Of course, it's a very emotionally charged term. I'm trying not to.
Oh no, and you're fine. You're fine, and I'm not arguing with you at all. I'm just kind of thinking, like, I don't want him to
get us banned.
Alienate some. Well, I was just gonna say, I don't want you to alienate someone because.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if he laid down his life for us, you could argue it either way. That he was still.
Yes.
Anyway, splitting hairs.
Yes.
Sorry, I.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to go down that road.
The motivation is a relational one.
Situation.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sorry. It's almost 1:00 where I am.
Oh yeah, and we can wrap up whenever you're ready. We'll be back because we try to get on here
a couple times a week. We don't have a set schedule yet. We're working that out, but you can click the little notification bell too if you're ready to go to bed, and then it can send you a little chime. We usually try to schedule it out at least several hours ahead of time so that you can get an idea. And if you're free, we'd love to have you back.
That would be great. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. If you've got another 5 minutes, I can make it.
We have as much time as you want.
All
I
right.
just didn't want you to feel obligated to stay sleepy.
No, I'm good. I just wonder how much brain. If I feel like right now, if I tip my head too far, my brains will start sliding out of my ears. So
someone was asking how to get in. Just type this in your browser.
Oh yeah,
and then there'll be just a couple of simple steps to request up, and we'll bring you on up after we finish here with Adam.
Yeah, I think. Oh gosh, please, where were we? Somebody remind me where we were.
I've kind of lost it too.
Now all of our brains are getting there.
Okay.
I think. Oh, it was the kind of like the whole like sacrifice type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, was that like because Jesus died on the cross that then like sacrifice became such an integral part of the Christian movement? Was because it's kind of like emulating the leader?
Well, I actually think it's the opposite way. I think it's because he resurrected that sacrifice became such an integral part of the Christian movement. There's a saying in Catholic circles, and don't tell me who started it because I don't know. But it's that the martyrs are the seeds of the church, and Christ said also that just as a sheaf of grain or a seed of grain must die and fall to the earth before it starts up, so too must the Son of Man die and bring forth new life. So I think that the resurrection is what would make sacrifice such a an appealing story. I mean, if you look at the if you were to read the accounts of even the early church fathers, for example, how was gladiator combat stopped in Rome? Right, a man shouted in the name of Jesus Christ, stop, and he kept going until eventually he stood between two gladiators who hacked him to pieces. And after he died, that was the end of gladiatorial combat in the Colosseum. I mean,
Really?
the effect of Christ and his witness and mission in, if you call on the name Jesus Christ, God will do. He will work mightily. If you if you call on the name Jesus Christ, you will be saved, right? If you there is power in the name of Jesus, not because anybody believed in him, although that is true. I mean, when you believe, more happens, right? And that
Well, it does say, I mean, Jesus flat out says, ask in my name and it will be granted to you. Now, believe it or not, I was a real Christian. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't read this, I don't read the book now because it's fun, right? I just read it and read it, because I was a hardcore Christian. And there was times
Yeah,
when I prayed and it didn't get granted. Now, obviously, maybe that was like, it wasn't out of context. It's a flat out thing. I mean, we can pull it up. But one of the things that like started to crack my eggshell is I was actually at a camp, a Bible camp, and I remember like reading Mark, and I'll throw it up here. It was Mark 16, and you've seen this verse before. It's 16:16. Well, 15, it says, Jesus said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name, they will drive out demons, they will speak in new tongues, they will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. And they will place their hands on sick people and they will get well. But like, we don't believe that we can like when I was a believer, I struggled with this because I was like, I really believe, but I grew up in the country and I wasn't going near a rattlesnake. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like where was this true and where was it not true in terms of
Mm,
like what he said would actually happen, if that makes sense.
sure. So everything that Christ said right there is true. You can lay your hands on people in the name of Jesus Christ, and they will get better. There are miraculous occurrences in the name of Jesus that are scientifically documented all the time. There's one you could look up, for example. There's a lady with glaucoma who, not just glaucoma, but she had like some crazy kind of cancer. I just saw this. It was a YouTube short. But I mean, even in my own life, I have seen insane reversals of fortune. And things that God has provided for me personally are wonderful. And I don't think that any of that came about. I don't think that any of that came about because I believed any differently or any harder than anybody else. I'm struggling to convey the point here, but it sounds like, did you feel that God did not have your best interests at heart when he did not grant you something that you wanted?
No, I guess for me it was just like I believed that the Bible was inerrant, and I believed that every single word in the Bible was 100% true and meant what it said.
Yeah,
So when I read something like, if you ask unto me and you will receive, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna ask for something, and if I don't receive it, then of course I write it off as, um, okay, well, God knows better, so I must not have needed that. I'm going to put it in His hands, or it's either yes, no, or wait, right? And it's an interesting thing though, because it's unprovably false. So like
hmm,
I could pray that tomorrow I want to see 3 blue cars when I drive wherever. If I don't see 3 blue cars, it wasn't in my best interest. If I do see 3 blue cars, God was answering my prayer. So it's one of those things where it's like,
sure.
I pray that my grandma gets better. If she doesn't get better, it was her time. If she does get better, it was a miracle. Like every
Ah,
single
I understand.
prayer, every single thing I could do. But when it came to things like that, where it was blatant, like, you will know believers by this sign, they can handle poisonous snakes and they will not die. And I lived in an area where we had a lot of poisonous snakes. And I was like, you know what? I shouldn't even worry, because if I get bit by these things, I will not die. But I'm like, I guess I don't
Sure.
really believe, because I'm not going to go get close to the snake. If I hear one, I'm getting the heck out of there.
Yeah.
When it's like, does that mean that I'm not a believer?
Well, nobody's. It didn't say to handle snakes. It said to drink. Did it say to drink poison?
They will pick up snakes with their hands.
Huh.
They will pick up
This is
snakes.
Mark 15.
16.
Would you mind putting it up on screen?
Oh, I just did. Should be up there.
It's still giving that loading bar.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's loading. Oh, dang it. Yeah, it's Mark 16.
It's crazy how much hell down in the bottom section looks like Iceland having a really bad day.
I was gonna say,
It like
post volcano in Hawaii.
this
Yeah,
is
maybe.
this is like real. This is some good
It's
stuff. Look, what's
it's
that
more like
rock
magma.
formation over there?
You know,
There's a full on geological rock formation
hey,
in
no
a
one said it
recent
was.
pool of magma. Hang on, I gotta call BS on that. No,
Yeah, that might be a that might be an issue where I generated the image and then realized that the new iPhones have a different screen resolution, and so then I had to like jettison it out, and it created all sorts of yeah, malformities. But who's to say hell doesn't look like that? We don't want to know.
no, we don't.
Is the
Is it loading, or did
I
it?
wanted to. Yeah, so I wanted to. Sorry, I needed to disengage for a moment
Yeah, you're good.
to
You're good.
correct, but um, yeah. So remember, there are a number of instructions about prayer, and one of the big ones is, but when you pray, do not doubt. And so, if we are doubting, that it's not praying in the name of Jesus, essentially.
So if you pray and don't doubt, so here's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because trust me, I get this. Like if I
Yeah.
pray and don't doubt,
Yeah.
then it just goes back to the same thing. It's back in God's hands. So if I
Well,
pray and don't doubt that my grandma gets better, but she dies, that was God's plan. If
you
I
gotta.
pray and
Yeah. Okay.
doubt and then she does get better, I guess I wasn't doubting that much. It was a miracle. Or if I was praying and not doubting and she gets better, then it was a miracle. Or God did it. You know what I mean? It's just not
Yeah.
provable.
So
it's not testable.
Testable.
yeah. So I will absolutely grant that there is wiggle room here.
That's fair.
Absolutely. Nobody can prove without a shadow of a doubt that this is God. I think that the wiggle room is probably a little smaller than most people would say, right? It's not always, I want the shiny new bicycle, I want the winning lottery ticket. One of the things about praying in the name of Jesus, that word "in the name of,"
Mm-hmm.
the word "name" in Hebrew is Shem.
Mm-hmm.
And your Shem is not just your name. It is also your character. It is all of your resources, and it is your authority. When someone comes to you and says, "Stop in the name of the law," or "Make way for the king," right? Stop in the name of the king, right? They're saying that with the character and the authority and all the resources that the king has marshaled. It's an authorized prayer. When we pray for God to give us our daily bread, and by the way, I've buried grandparents, right? I don't mean to come across as insensitive. I've
You're
Yeah,
not
buried
at
no,
all.
you're
friends.
good. Yeah, not at all.
But give us this day our daily bread, our daily just enough for the day. I don't know how much uh, I don't know how much the timeline of grandma's passing pertains to the things that we should be praying about. I think that prayers for healing, right, and the laying on of hands and pouring out oil, those are useful, I think, within the church and probably other places. But the question of is God going to get more glory if grandma dies on Tuesday rather than Thursday? I think that's maybe a bit outside of my pay scale.
Well, and that's the thing though. It's just like there's just no way to like they actually did. So there was like studies on this where they had three groups of people, and if you Google it, I mean it'll pull up. It was like a reviewed study, but like they had people that were being prayed for in a hospital and knew that they were being prayed for,
Oh, this is a good study.
people that were being prayed for in the hospital that didn't know they were being prayed for, and then people, let's see, what was the third one? People that were in a hospital
They
that
either knew they were being prayed for,
didn't know, or just weren't being prayed for.
or knew
Mm.
that, yeah.
And they all actually performed the same, except there was one slightly lower, which is just wiggle room, right? But the
Sure.
one that was slightly lower was the people
Who knew they were
who
being
knew
prayed
they were being prayed for. They actually performed that, but then it didn't. Like it's an interesting study, and there's been other
Wait,
studies about just like
wait, are you telling me that they were unable to heal because of their unbelief?
well, no, it wasn't the people praying, and these are
No,
like
no, no.
churches,
Yeah.
praying for people.
No, it was
Sure.
the sick patients, but once they knew they were being prayed for, they almost had a higher, like, it's almost like there was so much pressure, like it's a test,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that they actually
yeah, the
had
stress or something.
worse
I don't know.
That
results.
sounds like religious trauma.
A little
I
bit, yeah.
like it sounds like, oh my gosh, and I don't know,
Yeah.
like somebody, you know, I've taken to bed like a Victorian maiden. I'm going to hang out in my room and I'm going to read a book.
Wait to be healed.
Or just like give it 6 hours of not interacting with people until
Yeah.
I can
Yeah, right.
figure out what's going on. I mean, yeah.
I don't have like the back and forth Bible knowledge you guys have, but sometimes I interject with the big questions. So if I were to interject on this whole conversation with what I would consider one of the big questions, if I sit here and say, oh my gosh, this was an amazing God moment, I prayed and now this woman no longer has glaucoma. Why should I be impressed by that when like children are dying of bone cancer in the hospital like every single day? Like by the masses. Like why is somebody not taking that powerful prayer and like curing childhood cancer?
That's a great question. I think
And the fact that that massive scale of what I would call unjustifiable suffering exists makes the fact that like someone prayed and found their car keys almost sound kind of shitty.
No, I agree. I think that everybody, I think life would probably be better for everybody if we all got bigger problems. Like if we all, you know, were ministering to the sick or those in prison or helping the homeless.
Well, and I think you can call it ministering, volunteering,
Yeah,
helping, aiding, assisting, all of that. Like,
sure.
obviously, I think that everyone should do that in whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah.
But I'm talking, that's people, that's not God.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely a component in the scriptures, right, where the people who are praying, the people who are about to receive the blessing, and the people who want to, like, God does cooperate with people, right? Christ does not do miracles. It says he cannot do miracles. He could not do miracles because of their unbelief, right? That was the first thing an hour and a half ago we talked about.
That was in Mark when he was in his hometown. But interestingly enough, like if you think about it, so when the original disciples went out, and like even Paul and them, when they were going out, it says that they were performing miracles so that people would believe. And again, here's another one of those contradictory things where it's like they're walking into an area where they're like, dude, this is whatever, this is complete nonsense, and they're like, oh yeah, boom, you're healed. And then they're like, whoa, wait a minute, what did you just do that? And then boom, you're healed. And then all of a sudden they start listening. Like that was literally a power granted to them to convert people. I would posit that if this prayer thing was real, and that what the New Testament says about, and out of Jesus's own mouth, saying that if you pray in my name with my authority, to your point, that people can be healed and you can, in miracle or prayers will be answered. To Adele's point, if someone had that faith and power to pray and make something happen, could you imagine if there was a group of Christians going around to children's hospitals, healing children through the power of prayer? Everyone in the freaking world that wasn't a complete psycho would become a Christian.
I think that there are places where that is happening in the world.
Like, where is the information on that? I know that there's stories, because there's stories about this in all religions, but I mean the real this would make global news.
I mean, I think that if you, I don't think, I disagree with the idea that this would make global news. I think I
think that if an entire hospital of children were cured, everyone would know about it.
Even if like let's say 20%.
Or yeah, like 20 kids or something like massive happened. Like,
I mean, there's stories from Christian sources where a Christian source healed people, or people from like a different religion. That one helped, but I mean, even
but he was trying to respond.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
Yeah, no, I think So the one thing is a Christian source, even though it might be a motivated source, would that be an unreliable source? Like, I want to
Not
see God
necessarily.
glorified. Right. Like, I
Yeah.
want to see God glorified.
Yeah.
If it
I
meant helping 20
but
children at once, I might want to see God glorified
Oh,
too.
I'd jump on board again. Yeah, for sure.
well, then let's see where it is. I know. So here's the thing. I'm on a first name basis with people who I'm thinking of one lady. Somebody had basically a sucking wound in the arm, and this is like backcountry Africa. Like, there's no doctors. You can get a Coca-Cola faster than you can get medicine, right? And this lady prayed for this person and laid on hands, and she removed her hands, and the injury was gone, like fleshed up under the hand. And that's one example.
And what's the name of what was this name of this instance?
That no, that was just a lady went on a mission trip to Africa, and this is
And you
what she
knew this
told.
person.
Actively know this person. Yes.
Okay, now here's the thing. This goes back to our Peter and James story, right?
Sure. Do
You're
you think
taking
that
you're taking it on that they told you, and it's like, okay, dude. I
would
know
it feel
when I first married somebody, she told me that she saw a ghost, and I believed it.
would you
I didn't see
but
it.
the
I
reason
felt it.
but the reason that I believe this is because I have seen other things. This is within the realm of possibility for me. I know that this lady is not a liar. I she's never lied to me.
And
I
I can agree with that. And I can also respond by saying, like, sometimes there are
we see
instances
what we
of
want to
things
see.
just,
Yeah.
well, yes. But also, like, there are instances of things being cured and we can't exactly explain why.
Yeah.
Or like you have an ailment and it goes away. There's chronic pain. I'm not explaining this well. There are instances of coincidence
Sure.
as well. And also, along with good intention comes well wishes. So when something good happens, you want to correlate those things together. And I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying, like, I am more inclined to believe something that's more likely than something that's miraculous.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I explained that well at all.
No, I think that was fine, and I think with good intentions comes well wishes, or with well wishes comes good intentions. I think that's a great quote. I'm going to try to say that 2 or 3 more times so I lock that in. You said with
Good
good,
intentions.
Yeah,
which
I
which
like
comes
Come with
first?
well wishes.
I don't know. Now I'm
With
trying to think which I think makes more sense. You have good intentions. I think that they just kind of go together. Like,
yeah, I
even
think
if
that's
I'm
fair.
not praying, if I know something's wrong with you, I'm going to have good intentions for you and well wishes for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that can have either an explanation that, like, I can't explain it, so God, or it can be, hey, this is great. It could have been science, it could have been timing, it could have been self-care, it could have been, I don't know, some of these could be oversimplified. I would need a very specific situation. But I think that there's often an explanation that's a little more likely
Sure.
than miracle. I'm not trying to say that I don't
Yeah.
even want to believe in miracles. I think that would be amazing. I just think that if that actually existed, that there would be, like, a lot bigger things happening than I needed a cane and now I don't.
Sure. I think if you go to more rural places, you will probably find more examples
Well, don't say
of
that
this.
to us because we live in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
Comes-
I'm talking about places no white man has been for 100 years.
Gotcha. Not
I'm
just like
I mean,
not just like my hometown
not
population.
not
2000.
rural.
Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
tracking,
like they don't.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, they just. I mean, places, but truly, and I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory sense. I mean,
Absolutely
I
not.
think within the industrialized West, wealthy European, rich, developed countries, we see a lot less faith healing and a lot more, call it comfortable living. I think if you go to places where there is a lot more day-to-day need
Mhm.
for God, God is a lot more present. And in terms of, and not even that God isn't active here, but if I give you $100, you would say, "Oh, thanks, that's very nice." And if you said why, and I said, "Well, it's because of your birthday," and you said, "Oh, thank you, great." If you give someone in rural China $100, you have changed their life.
Right.
And it's the same thing with healing, right? If you look up, for example, you can look up, I think his name is, is it Brother YU? He's a Chinese evangelist. He was thrown into prison, top secret, or not top secret, but top security prison.
Oh, Yoon. Okay.
Brother Yoon, thank you. His legs were broken. God called him, told him to stand up, and he walked out of this highly armed prison himself. And there are guards at that prison who I believe are alive today. Right? I think this was very recent. I think that
we'll make a note to check on that because a lot of these like faith healers like Benny Hinn and all this sort of thing too. Like there's some things that I've dove into that are a little bit like okay, like we kind of now know some of those. Now this one could be a good example. We'll definitely look into that. We do have another caller though that called in a little bit ago.
very good.
And Adam, you were fantastic. Definitely would love to have you back. My and I'm not going to ask my last question. I'm going to save it till next time because I really hope we
'Cause I
have
hope
more of
there's
a
a next time.
conversation. Yeah, we hope there's a next time. You were great to talk to. Very, very enlightening, and we really appreciate you.
Well, and
It was so good to be with you.
Before we finish, I just want to say, like, we don't have an end goal here. Like, our goal isn't to deconvert you or necessarily to have you convert us, but just to talk about some of these topics that can be complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that we had a really nice time doing that, and I really appreciate you. So I hope you do kind of keep an eye on us and come back sometime. We'd love to talk to you again. And we put the pin in it at what was the thing what were you just saying, Adam, right before
About
Brother
Yoon?
Brother Yoon and miracles. Okay.
And like faith healing.
Or
make a note.
Yep.
And
so that we can pick it back up next time.
Yep.
And you might also look up documented Eucharistic miracles.
Okay. Yep. Actually popping that down. Okay.
It's been so good to be with you. Thank you so much, both of you. I will like and subscribe and hope to talk soon.
And have a great weekend. And
yeah, have a good Easter weekend.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.